Hey guys, welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Andre Sigers, and this time I'm joined by Derek Bittner and Ash Paulson to discuss the news that Zelda Breath of the Wild is getting DLC. So let's get started. Alright, as you both well know, because you were up, Ash, when this happened, Nintendo announced that for the first time ever in a mainline Zelda game, they are adding DLC. So it's going to come out, or rather, it'll be available immediately on the date of release for $19.99, but it's available for purchase. Not everything, you won't get everything at that same time. Instead, they're actually dividing it into 2 packs, or really 3 here, though they call it 2. Because upon release, you'll immediately get access to 3 treasure chests that'll appear in the Great Plateau area if you buy this DLC. One of them will contain a shirt with the Nintendo Switch logo on it, and then the other 2 will contain what they call useful items, whatever that means. Next, in this summer, you'll get the first real pack, which will contain a new Cave of Trials challenge, a new hard mode, and a new feature for the in-game map, also whatever the hell that means. And then this holiday, they'll follow up with a second pack, or in this case, third. And this will contain a new challenge that will let players enjoy a new dungeon and a new original story. Again, whatever that means. So, it's weird how specific they were at times, and also vague at others on what the heck this DLC actually is. But there's definitely some interesting stuff here to discuss. So let's start off with our top level impressions. Ash, what's your knee-jerk reaction to this?
I'm pretty surprised. I'm just more. I'm surprised, but I'm mostly surprised by the timing of this announcement. I feel like the timing of this is a little off, but I'm excited that they're doing it. I just feel like they maybe should have waited till the game was out to announce this, because I don't know. I just with as trepidatious as people tend to be about DLC, the fact that the game isn't even out yet, to me, says it's going to cause people to go like, well, you haven't even sold me the game yet, and you're trying to sell me on more DLC. Why wasn't this in the main game? Mm-hmm. Arguments like that, which, if you're going to make this kind of announcement before release, aren't entirely unfounded. Like, I 100% believe they probably started development on the DLC only after the main game was complete. But still, I feel like maybe they should have waited until after release to announce this. Mm-hmm. Just to kind of save face. I think it would have looked better. But either way, I'm excited. I think it's cool that they're finally doing this.
Maybe I'm just weird, but I don't take that as a bad timing in this case. Because, you're going to want to get people hyped up and get people excited for stuff that's coming in the future. And, this is Nintendo. We can't really expect like a complete edition of Zelda, which is a lot of people's fears now, is that like down the line next year they'll release a Breath of the Wild complete edition. I don't think Nintendo's going to do that, because they never released a complete edition on the Wii U for any of the stuff that got DLC. Instead, it was just stuff that you could get for ports and stuff. So if Breath of the Wild ever gets ported to anything, all this stuff will be included, but I don't see that happening for a long time. So I really can't see a complete edition coming down the line, which is, I think, where most of the fears are coming in. And to be honest, a lot of this stuff isn't that huge. The big stuff, to me, doesn't come in until DLC Pack 2. And the strangest decision, in my opinion, is that it's not being broken up, sort of like how Hyrule Warriors was, where you could get a season pass and get all this stuff as well as a little extra, or you can get it a la carte where you could say, oh, I just want DLC Pack 1, or oh, I just want DLC Pack 2. And from what we can see, that's not possible. It's just all or nothing. And I think they did that intentionally, because I don't think many people would have bought DLC Pack 1 on its own if they didn't have this DLC Pack 2 coming down the line as well with the original story, which is what people are going to be focusing on.
Right. So for me, I agree with you, Ash. The timing is a little bit weird. I mean, in a sense, I actually like this timing, just for me, because I like to know what I'm getting myself into. Like what they're saying now is if you want the full definitive version of this game, is now going to cost you $80, or is that right? Yeah, $80.
Yeah.
So it's good to know that going in, but I also agree with you that the optics of it isn't great. People already have enough issues with DLC as is. The mass market in general, or actually I shouldn't say mass market. I mean people on NeoGAF. People like that, not just NeoGAF, but people are going. I'm sure people are already freaking out. I haven't had a chance to look at the reaction at all. But I'm sure people aren't taking kindly to this, taking the stance that if the game's already done, why isn't this available at launch? Or, coming free later on, who knows? There's any number of arguments you can make. I don't care about that, that's immaterial to me. They budgeted things separately. I have no doubt the full version of Breath of the Wild, or the one you buy in stores will be a complete game. So I'm not terribly concerned about that. For me though, so this whole thing is weird. I've said before we are looking at a different Nintendo. And this is proof of it. This is a different Nintendo. Whenever have they announced story-based DLC for Zelda or for any of their games before it even comes out? Like a big edition like this for one of their biggest franchises. Maybe they have that, I'm forgetting, but this seems like a huge thing to me. I'm conflicted. Some of this I'm okay with, and others I'm less okay with. So I guess maybe we should start going through this, a little bit, bit by bit perhaps. And just you take it by each pack. So let's go start off with what you're getting immediately out of the gate for this $20. And I should mention this is both for the Wii U and Switch versions of the game. Doesn't matter which version you have, you'll get the same stuff at the same price. So again, upon purchase of this DLC, you'll immediately get 3 new chests in the Great Plateau area. One that has a Nintendo Switch logo on it, or one that contains a shirt with a Nintendo Switch logo on it, and the other 2 have useful items. And that's what makes this tough to discuss, because we don't know what those are. What are they? So, what do you guys think about what you're getting immediately out of the gate?
Well, I know I'll probably never wear the Switch shirt because I like to be sort of engrossed in something instead of have Link wear some branding as he's going through this adventure. It's like, I'm never going to use that. As far as the useful items, it could be either something entirely new or giving you access to stuff you'll get later down the line, because we don't know a lot about the items as of yet.
We don't.
It's really hard to say what they'll be. It may be just earlier access to certain things, or it could just be, hey, here's some extra arrows to begin with. Mm-hmm. It really could be anything.
Yeah, I mean, the nature of those items is so unclear. I mean, like you said, Derek, it could be anything, and that's the thing. If it's something too common, like a bundle of arrows, or I'm sure it'll be more than that, but if it's like common items around the game world that you can just get by like scanning in an amiibo or something, or just by playing the game, that's cool, I guess, but it's not all that interesting, and it's not something that I find worth spending $20 on. But again, that goes back to what we said earlier about that's why they're putting that story content DLC in DLC Pack 2, because they know that this other stuff might not sell by itself, but you get people to bite with that story DLC, and that's what does it. So the items could or could not be exciting. At the same time, even if they are more than just standard items, if they make the game too easy, if it's too much of a handicap, I don't know if I'd want to use them anyway. So, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, I think, on these items. But as far as, I do agree with you, Derek, as far as the shirt's concerned. I'm all about immersion myself, so I don't see myself using this shirt all that much. I mean, it's a cool little idea, I guess, but I think it's funnier for people playing the Wii U version, how there's not like a specific part or version of this pack for them, because they're playing this on the Wii U and they're like, oh, Switch shirt, okay.
To be fair, do they want a Wii U shirt? Even?
Probably not. Yeah.
So on the one hand, it's not that big of a deal. It's a shirt as far as we know, it's not that big of a deal. Maybe it is. We don't know what those 2 items are. That could change everything. If those are 2 big exclusive items, you have to pay for them. I can see some people being miffed about that. On the other hand, for me, I feel the same way about this as I do the Amiibo, which I've already complained about before. As you kind of touched on, as you both touched on, Zelda's an immersive game. In fact, they opened the email by saying, The Legend of Zelda is one of the most engaging video games Nintendo's ever created. While the main game offers players an engrossing quest that will keep them entertained for hours, blah blah blah. They're already starting off telling you this game is immersive and engaging, and yet this DLC runs counter to that. The fact that you're able to do something outside the context of the game that influences portions within the game, including the fact that this Nintendo Switch logo completely breaks any level of immersion you have with that world. There's no reason for that shirt to exist within the world. I don't like it. I like DLC in general. I don't like it as it applies to story-based games. At least in this specific instance. I don't like that you can pay money to have things randomly appear in the world that there's no way to get otherwise. It's weird. It breaks the immersion of the game a bit. Again, it's not that big of a deal. You can ignore it, of course. You don't have to buy this. But I don't like the fact that it's really an option at all. Yeah,
it's hard to find that balance, because you need to have something like, it is just a bonus. Like this is not, we've kind of labeled it as like this third tier, but it really isn't. It's just like, here's some stuff. It's sort of like how you'd expect like a pre-order bonus at GameStop or something like that. Like,
I don't like that
nothing
either,
too major. Well, exactly,
in a story-based game like this, yeah.
Yeah, like here's a little bit something extra. And to be fair, the clothing is inoffensive. I've already seen some people like, hey, I'm going to wear this the entire time because that's just kind of cool. I like that kind of thing. So it does appeal to some people. It just personally doesn't appeal to me, and it obviously doesn't appeal to you guys either. And the right balance of the items is definitely going to be a tricky place to go on. I mean, I'll pick them up, but I won't be... if they're too useful, I won't be using them because I want to have that sort of legit experience, at least the first time. This is something I'd use more often, like the second playthrough, than anything else.
I mean, that's a great point. The game is already being balanced without the stuff in mind, presumably. This will affect the balance. We just don't know how much. I mean, it's a guarantee it will affect the balance. You just don't know how much it will affect the balance. It could be nothing, relatively nothing, or these are powerful items. It could be a significant enhancement, or rather, I don't mean enhancement. Could make the game significantly easier.
My guess is probably they're not going to affect things too much. This seems to me like something they're throwing to, it's like they're just throwing this out for people who want to feel like they're getting some sort of immediate value out of their $20. Like, this reads to me kind of like the multicolored Shy Guys from the Mario Kart 8, or was it Shy Guys or Yoshi's? Maybe Yoshi's.
Both. I think both.
Both. From the Mario Kart 8 DLC, where you got access to those alternate colors immediately, even before the main content was ready. So, if I had to guess, I don't think they're going to include any, these 2 free items or whatever. I don't think they're going to completely wreck the balance of the game. I don't think they're going to be major handicaps. I don't even think they're going to enhance the experience all that much in general. I think they're just there for people to have some sort of material value right out of the gate. Same thing as that shirt, and you don't even have to equip it. So I have a feeling that Nintendo is mindful of the fact that they need to not break this immersion,
but they already are.
That optionally though, but it's not something that you have to equip. You find this treasure chest and you can forget about it forever. Literally, you never have to put on that shirt.
I think there's an argument to be made that not everyone will always do what's best for their immersion. And
true,
and that's fine. That's their prerogative. But I don't know. Like, I'm on some level, I'm kind of, again, this is an exaggeration of how I really feel. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But I almost feel the same way about this that I do when Mario was peddling that those Mercedes cars. Right? It just doesn't work for me. It doesn't fit.
Right.
At least he's not at least there isn't DLC where Link is driving a Mercedes Benz instead of riding a Epona.
Not yet.
Oh, God.
All right. Well, let's go and move on to the first real pack that as Nintendo's calling it, coming this summer. Again, it includes a Cave of Trials challenge, which I don't care about. It contains a new hard mode and a new feature for the in-game map. Again, this is very vague, at least for that last one. The other two are a bit more specific. Thoughts on this?
This is a step in the right direction for me for single-player content. The thing I'm actually the most leery about from this pack is the hard mode. It makes little sense to me to lock away a difficulty behind DLC.
Especially now that it's been included in games before, including in the recent remakes of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the only... I guess the comparison would be like how you could scan in Ganondorf into Twilight Princess in order to have more challenge in that way, but it's still odd. I mean, it's great from the concept of like, oh, I feel like playing Zelda again, but I want to try it, make it even tougher on myself. So I'm going to do the hard mode this time, which is kind of saying something considering how much damage certain enemies can do to you already in normal mode.
That's a good point. The game seems to come with hard mode on as default.
Yeah, so it's definitely it seems to have more of a challenge than the traditional Zelda adventure, at least recently. So I'd be curious. I am kind of curious just from how hard is this new hard mode? What changes about it? What's different? Otherwise, map feature, it's hard to really get excited about that because I don't know what the map can do yet, other than setting waypoints and, well, looking at it, or doing fast travel. The stuff that interests me the most of this pack is the Cave of Trials challenge, just because, hey, that's more content. I get to play around the game more. It's not going to be massive new content, but at least I get to go in there and check it out. Hopefully it's well integrated into the game as well, not something like, by the way, you can take on this challenge through a menu. It's like that would, yeah.
Cave of Trials is barely new content.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly how I feel about the Cave of Trials, Derek. If it's integrated into the world itself and it's something that you get to find and it's like an actual new area that you get to find, even if the area itself isn't that interesting, I'm cool with that. But if it's something that you just select from a menu like in Twilight Princess, that is literally the lamest, dumbest thing. Like, I remember we were all speculating before Twilight Princess HD came out, like, oh, wow, where are they going to add that into the game world? Like, that's pretty cool. And then, of course, it's just a damn menu option, and it's, like, not interesting at all. So I hope they don't go that route with it.
I'm going to disagree real quick, Ash. I would actually prefer they go that route, because, yeah, on the one hand, it is kind of lame. On the other, it better fits with what I expect of them, or what I prefer of them not changing in-game content based on things you do outside the game. I'm cool with it as a separate mode. I'm less cool with it being a new part of the world that magically appears because something arbitrarily happened outside of the world.
See, I don't know. I can make that willing suspension of disbelief, like where, yeah, okay, obviously you're paying for a little extra content for this new area, you know, hypothetically, but I kind of like the idea that, like, this new hidden, you know, area of the world you can now explore, you know, expanding the core game. Like, of course, this is all assuming the core game has enough meat to it anyway. But
I was gonna say that's something they can do as part of the core game. You can have that same thing without the monetary aspect that would fit in way better.
Well, but then you get to the argument of you know, really, we don't really have an inside look at the development process. We don't know if this content was ready for the main game, or, you know, would you have wanted it would you have wanted the game to be delayed so they could get this content into the core game, assuming it just wasn't ready for March 3rd?
I said before, I don't care at all about Cave of Trials. I don't care if it's in this game at all. I don't care the capacity of it. Those challenges are dull.
I'm not really all that. I'm not excited about the Cave of Trials whatsoever. Like, that doesn't, unless it's something beyond what we've been led to expect from these kinds of dungeons, like in Twilight Princess and Wind Waker. Like, if it's something beyond that, sure, maybe. If it's like an actual proper dungeon, okay, but I doubt it. It's probably just going to be a series of the same room over and over again with increasingly difficult enemies. So, yeah, I hear you. I mean, I see the position you're coming from. I just don't like having new menu options added when I could feel like I could be exploring and finding a new place. Now, that said, this new map function is actually what has me the most, I guess, a little iffy, feeling the most iffy about this. That sounds the most like something that wasn't maybe ready for the main game, but they wanted to get it in there anyway, so they're throwing it in later as DLC. Now, that's just speculation. I don't know that, but the fact they're being so vague about it, you know, new map feature, what does that even mean? Like, right. I don't know. It could be something really cool that is a completely new feature that is just fluff. But if it's something that's useful and it's something that's really good for navigating and getting around, and it feels like it should have been in the game already, that's where I get a little bit iffy about it.
That's my concern, especially because a lot of people are already going to be done with the game by then.
Right.
You know, what's the point of having a useful feature if we've already beaten the game and 100%ed it, or close to that?
Well, that's what hard mode's for.
Yeah.
Play it again.
I guess so. Yeah, so I really wonder what they mean by that. Like, is it a brand new feature, like, in general, that, you know, like, where Mark's new collectibles or something for you to go get? Or does it just help you find additional stuff? Or, you know, who knows? So I agree with you. I'm going to need more information on that one, Ash, before I can make a verdict at all. I think that one sounds intriguing, but again, I don't know. For me, I'm actually totally okay with the new hard mode. Again, it already seems like the game's running on hard mode, and while we don't know for sure that's going to be the case throughout the whole experience, it definitely seems harder than any past Zelda, even to some degree, perhaps even in those hard modes, whatever they were called, hero mode.
Oh, hero modes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually okay with that. I mean, obviously, I would prefer not to pay for a hard mode, but that is something I could justify paying something for. Yeah, in-game map, I'm iffy on. Cave of Trials don't care at all about. Alright, let's move on to the final one, coming this holiday, where it adds new challenges that will let players enjoy a new dungeon and a new original story. I'm actually totally okay with this, just based on the surface level. We'll have to wait and see for how they actually implement it. I'm actually cool with adding new story stuff, assuming it exists independently of the main game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want them to add a new side character that randomly pops up into, you know, the existing world that allows access to whatever this is. I'd be more inclined, you know, I'm cooler with the idea of them just adding a new adventure that you select from the menu that really does use this world in a new way. And if they, you know, I don't know how far out they're going to go how far they're going to go with this. If it makes use of the whole world, $20 could be a freaking bargain for that. So, but then again, it may not be anything close to that. It could just take place in a small area. Who knows? But this is exciting, and I am actually wondering what they're going to do here. I've already seen some speculation, and it's actually something that occurred to me too. Could this be a Zelda side story? You know, could this explain, or, you know, could this give you a look at what she's gone through? Or could it take place in a different time period, maybe? Here's what happened in the past, or, in the future. Who knows? What do you guys think about this?
I think that's the most exciting part of this, this entire pack, honestly, is that new original story. Where could they place it? Because I've seen 3 suggestions, 2 of which you've already brought up with the whole Zelda side story, or maybe a prequel story showing what happened at a certain point, or maybe those 2 are combined, who knows. But I've also seen people wonder, like, I wonder if we'll still be able to explore all of Hyrule after we defeat the main villain, which we could assume is Ganon, but not going to make assumptions. And just be able to explore around, and then the new story is sort of like, I know you don't like this idea, Andre, but a guy travels from this land beyond Hyrule, and he needs a little bit of help, so you can go to this brand new area and explore there. Now, there's no indication of that in this description. Granted, there's not a whole lot of notification there, so I am more inclined to think that it's going to be a new menu selection option where it's like Zelda Gaiden, where you actually play as Zelda and encounter a small section of Hyrule where you can take on these new challenges and this new dungeon.
Yeah, I mean that seems to be the likelier scenario. Like, I mean, we see that in a lot of other games already. Like, there are often AAA games where you can select entire DLC episodes that are separate from the main game from just a drop-down menu. Like, we saw that recently in like Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. So that's kind of what I think is going to be the form that this DLC takes, a story DLC and a new dungeon. I feel like it will just kind of be a separate adventure from the main game. And if so, that's okay. I'm cool with that. I really, really love the idea that this could be Zelda's kind of side story or her own story. And I would love that. I hope this is kind of where we get to play as Zelda and maybe she gets to shine. She does seem, as we've noted before, she does seem to be the most active, or one of the most active, active Zeldas yet in terms of how she's dressed. She's dressed like Link. She seems to have her own Sheikah slate. I mean, the pieces seem to be falling into place for that to possibly happen. And of course, there were all those rumors leading up to release about her being playable, or a female Link being playable.
That's
so
true.
I would not be surprised if, the source of those rumors, or the genesis of those rumors, was perhaps this DLC episode where she's potentially playable. So I think that would be really cool, actually. I think that would be a great chance for them to explore the playable Zelda angle and kind of give us a different view on what's happening in the story. I don't know if it takes place in the past. I don't know if it takes place concurrently with the main story. I don't know, but I think it would be cool if it gave us more of an insight into this Zelda and kind of what she's been up to, and maybe even let us play as her.
Yeah, I mean, for the first time since the CDI games, right?
Yeah, I guess, or unless you count Spirit Tracks, but that's
yeah.
like indirect. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's why this one's exciting. Like, this is real content. This is not seemingly not some simple add-on that adds a new feature and can change the balance of the game. This is something entirely different. And this is really the only one I really care about that much. Like, this and hard mode are the only things I'm somewhat interested in, and maybe that new map feature. I've already loved what I've seen of Zelda, and knowing there's even more coming is pretty cool. Although, at the same time, I guess it does kind of get into timing now, and maybe I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, with how I like knowing what I'm getting myself into going in. But now I might be wondering, like, when I beat the game, is like, oh man, like, what is next? Or, should there have been more here? Like, now I'm going to be wondering about what is coming next with a Zelda DLC, whereas I wouldn't have before if I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of reasons not to time this announcement the way they did. Like, you just brought up a really good one. People are now going to be looking ahead to those expectations of what is coming next and was this potentially removed from the main game. And I mean, the game, I feel like, speaks for itself. I mean, we know to a degree just how massive this world already is and just how much there is to do in it. And I feel like, let the game speak for itself, let people play Zelda, gradually finish it, absorb all the meat this game has to offer, and then drop the DLC announcement. Then get people excited, like, oh, they think they're done. They're going to move on to the next big game. Oh, no. Hey, there's Zelda DLC coming out. There's this holiday, you're going to be playing a new dungeon with new story content. I think that would be more exciting to find out after I finish the game than before I've even started it, before I can even buy it.
They could have pulled a new Super Luigi U, right? Where they are basically releasing a whole new game at a fraction of the cost. Yeah, I mean, they'll still, they haven't shown anything off of it yet, so they'll still have that big announcement. But it's not going to have that same level of excitement it may have if they did it the way you said, and I agree with that. So
Yeah, I feel like announcing it this early creates all sorts of unnecessary expectations that Nintendo doesn't really need to create for themselves.
They're doing it because they probably think they can get more money from day one if it's available day one than if they announced it later on. They're
right.
thinking people are going to be more willing to immediately start paying for this. As opposed to people who beat the game, like, you know what, I got my fill, I'm good. I don't need more Zelda.
Yeah,
so.
I'm sure you're right. I'm sure there'll be tons of people who do pay for it day one, and I'm sure all three of us will be among them. It reads to me as slightly tone deaf when the conversation, or part of the conversation surrounding the Switch thus far, has been how expensive, or how surprisingly expensive all of its components are. People are already spending more money than they were expecting to on the Switch's launch. But hey, what's 20 more bucks, right? Let's throw another 20 bucks onto the fire and add some Zelda DLC in there. So I just feel like it reads slightly tone deaf, but I don't think it's the end of the world. I think you said, like you hit it, Andre. They know they're going to get more money for this on day one, and they've got their hardcore fans essentially by the balls here. They're, Nintendo fans are hardcore, and we know that because we're Nintendo fans and we're going to buy this DLC. So yeah, I think you hit it on the head, Andre. They know they can get the money early, so go for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I totally get what you guys are saying, and it makes a lot of sense. But, this... I can't get upset about this because it's not, like I said, it's not coming out. Oh yeah, it came out in March, and by the way, here's the first DLC coming at end of April. Next DLC, beginning of June. And there you go. All of it's done. That, to me, that makes it a lot more suspicious that this stuff wasn't ready to go and they just cut it out for later. And by having this new original story and the new dungeon and all this stuff not be available until the holidays, it does seem like this is something extra that they're adding rather than something they subtracted from the rest of the game, which so far that's been the case for all of Nintendo's DLC. It's not something they've subtracted, it's something they've added to it. And yeah, the timing does get a little weird, and I can't really definitively say which way is the better way. Obviously, I'm looking at the Nintendo's announcement video for it now, and it's 11,000 likes, 6,000 dislikes. So a lot of people are not happy with this, it seems. And
yeah,
I kind of get why, but it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I mean, I want to make it very clear. Like, I'm not upset, and I will also give Nintendo the benefit of the doubt. They are known for being very fair with their DLC, and I 100% believe that they did not just cut main content out of the game or out of the main game for this DLC. I actually think they're being totally legit about it. It really is only the timing, and again, I'm not upset about it. It's more, I think they're creating problems for themselves by announcing DLC before you can even buy the main game. I mean, I'm getting it anyway, and I'm excited about this DLC mainly. I just think that they would have been better served if they had waited until after release to announce it. But either way, I don't get the sense that they're trying to hoodwink anybody. I don't get the sense that they're like, okay, we cut all this out of the main game and we're going to charge extra money for it. No, I don't get that at all. I feel like, no, what we're getting is a very full, very complete game, and this is potentially exciting new content coming after that.
You bring up, actually, you kind of brought something there, like potentially new exciting content. People are going to be buying this without fully knowing what they're getting.
Welcome to DLC. Welcome to Season Passes.
I know, it's true.
Yeah,
like I said, it's a whole new Nintendo here, right? We've not dealt with this Nintendo before. I have a feeling they'll probably deliver on the DLC, but the thing is, we don't know that for sure, and it is a little bit, I mean, you don't have to buy it, but they're obviously trying to get you to. That's why they're putting out that initial batch of INZ and GAT, but they want you to buy this day one without thinking too much about what you may or may not be getting down the line.
True, but I also have to assume that this deal is not going to disappear after like a month. I think you could wait till they release more details in the holiday and decide to pick it up then, and then, hey, I already have the expansion pass and the DLC pack 1 to take advantage of.
But then the 2 useful items you get immediately are less useful if you can't use them, if you've already beaten the game. True,
but that's a decision people have to make.
I know, it's kind of like gambling.
It's kind of it's like, well, we've got Fire Emblem Heroes, which is literally based on gambling. So I mean, it is. I think it is important to note that the carrot they're dangling here isn't quite as intense as what they were doing with Mario Kart 8. Because with Mario Kart 8, you also had to buy the DLC early in the hopes that what they eventually deliver will make you happy. In that case, you actually got a discount. But you got to discount that in that sense. This time, though, there is no discount. All you get is a couple of potentially useful items and a T-shirt. Or a shirt.
So, I feel like, even though, I can't remember, did they not show off any of the initial tracks when they announced the DLC for Mario Kart?
They didn't, no.
Okay. I mean, I feel like not specifically showing off tracks, or rather, I feel like just knowing there's tracks coming is a lot different than what they're doing here. Because you already know how Mario Kart tracks are. Yeah, you don't know the exact theme or layout, but, you know, there's not a single bad track in Mario Kart 8, really, that I can think of. So I don't think there was any doubt that they weren't going to be good. And did they give you anything initially anyway when you bought it? I don't remember.
I think it was the multicolored Yoshi's and
that shit, right?
Shy Guys, right?
So there was that character you're talking about. But I don't know. I feel like it is a little bit different. Again, I don't think Nintendo let us down. $20 isn't a huge amount, but you know that DLC ends up disappointing. People aren't going to be happy about that. But I do feel like in this case, having more information would be useful before committing to a purchase.
Well, and I'm sure that's exactly why they've calculated exactly which information they're releasing, and just enough to get you interested and get you enticed, but not enough to potentially put you off of a buy if by giving too much information away. So
that's kind of crappy, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, but it's also welcome to 2017 in video games.
But is that an excuse though? Like, hey, everyone does something bad, so it's okay.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's an excuse, but at the same time, it is incumbent upon the consumer to make those decisions. Yeah, it's not like Nintendo has us at gunpoint saying you better open that wallet. You don't have to.
They kind of do a little bit because, well, I mean, you're right. They don't literally. But the thing is, if you wait, that devalues some of the content here. Such as the 2 useful items. Again, they aren't useful if you be in the game, and you've done everything there is to do in it. That's where the issue comes in, right? Because by waiting for more information, you are kind of damaging the value of some of that DLC.
Yeah, so you have to decide, hey, is it worth me, do I love Zelda enough to want to drop a little more money on this new content coming down the line, even though I don't necessarily know exactly what all of it is.
For me, I love Zelda enough to not buy that DLC, because I think that does undermine the engaging and engrossing quest that they specifically called out in that press release.
And that's a completely valid response. Like, that's a completely valid way to look at it, and that's your purchasing power. Like, you don't have to get the DLC. Well, you do. We do, because, this is our work.
I probably will have to
otherwise,
show it off.
Yeah. But, like, unless you're us, you don't have to. If you are disgusted by the,
Well, no, I mean, of course you don't have to, but that also doesn't mean you can't be, there's not value in having that opinion that they should or shouldn't do this.
I mean, let's be honest here. By March 3rd, you'll know what those extra useful items are going to be. You're not, it's not going to be like, ooh, I got to wait to find out. No, it's going to come out and you're going to know it. And that'll be plenty of time before DLC Pack 1 comes out. And you can potentially, look at those items that are revealed, decide whether or not it's worth getting that bonus right off the bat, and potentially wait till DLC Pack 1, which is a little bit more meaty in terms of the content that it's giving out. So I don't think it's as bad as you're making it seem, just because more information is coming.
I disagree, because when I was talking about not knowing what these features are, I was not even talking about those 2 useful items, which I've already written off as being almost nothing. I don't know what they are. That's not my concern. Like, I feel like even Nintendo doesn't even count those initial things as part of the 2 packs. What you're paying for really are those 2 packs. We don't know the bulk of that content. But they're dangling that carrot of those initial items in front of you, because those are the ones that will only be useful for those playing the game for the first time, really.
To be fair, though, I actually feel like we do know the bulk of the content. I mean, that you're paying
what's
for
the
Cave
feature
of Trials.
What's the map feature?
Well, I said the bulk of it, not all of it, but we know the Cave of Trials. We know hard mode.
That new original story is the bulk of it. We know nothing about them.
Yeah, but we know what a Zelda dungeon looks and sounds and plays
What's
like.
What's a new Zelda original story
now,
look like?
Of course, the story, yeah, but they've got to provide some mystery for later on. They can't just outline everything immediately.
You can provide more information you can provide more information than what they did. Without sacrificing the mystery.
Right, but then it's just our word versus theirs. It's what we think we deserve to know versus what they want to tell us. I just don't know if there's really
having some idea of scopes, having some idea of how the story exists within the universe would be good. Like, does it take place across the entire world, or just a segment of it? I think this is all stuff that would be useful to know before determining if I want to buy it or not.
I mean, it would be useful. I completely agree with you there. All I'm saying is I don't think they're necessarily, I don't think they're necessarily forced to give that information to us, or they shouldn't feel like it. It's marketing, it's sell. It's
well, I mean,
at the end of the day, they've got to worry about their bottom line, right?
I mean, so you're right that they shouldn't be forced to. I agree with that. And again, I want to stress that I'm making this a bigger issue than it really is right now. There's more principle of it than
right.
the specific case here. But I mean, you can say that about any company. Why should a company? Why does a company? Why should? Okay, this is taken to an extreme. Why report if your gas pedals are getting stuck in a car? They don't have to tell us that.
I mean, that is really different.
It is, but that's my point,
not
though.
Even close to the same thing.
Giving the consumer less information gives a company more power and less to us. I don't see how you can argue that's a good thing. You can argue that's their prerogative, but this is stuff that would be useful for us to know.
It would be useful for us to know, and the funny thing is that Nintendo is already providing more information than most other companies provide for their season passes. Usually it's just, hey, season pass, hey, it's $30, hey, we're not going to tell you what you're going to get with it, you have to wait till down the line, but $30 and you'll save money on what you get a la carte. Nintendo is already at least giving us an idea of what these individual packs do, and that's at least something. Granted, it's not as far as we want them to go. We want to know a better idea of what we're getting, but we're still getting more than the usual, and granted, it might sound like I'm just trying to defend Nintendo, and that's not really the case. That's not really the case, but I'm just saying, in comparison, if we're going to be comparing it to those type of things...
I'm not comparing it to anyone. I'm going purely... I mean, I don't deal with season passes. I don't even own an Xbox One or PS4, so...
But I think that has to be part of the conversation.
I don't think it has
because
to be.
you're...
No, it doesn't.
I mean, if
Why
you're...
not?
I think it should be, though. Yeah, I think that if we're talking about something that other companies already practice... I think that we should, if there's something to applaud Nintendo for here, which is...
There are things I would consider objective rights or wrongs. What other companies do has no impact on how I view that.
I don't know if I view the way they're packaging this as objectively wrong. I just feel like it's the free market economy. They're packaging things in a way that's enticing for us to potentially want to buy them or not, but at the end of the day, the purchasing power still lies with us. We don't have to open our wallets. And I don't know, I just feel like if you're a fan, it's important enough to you, you make the decision to get that extra stuff early or not, or you wait.
Yes, but that is the completely pragmatic approach, Ash.
Well, but I've always looked at stuff like this fairly pragmatically, and that's what's interesting is that we have two, obviously, or three completely different viewpoints on this, but I don't know. I think I agree that as a fan, yes, I'd like to know more, but because I've seen the way other companies do their season passes, and I'm not a big season pass guy either. I bought exactly one, and that is Final Fantasy 15, that was purely on the blind basis of me being a Final Fantasy fan. Is that stupid? Potentially, but it was my decision to go ahead and buy that content on the promise that they would deliver it eventually. We'll see how that turns out, but I already know more about what's coming for Zelda throughout the year, and I haven't even spent my money yet, than I did about Final Fantasy when I spent that $30 on the season pass. So I think Derek made a good point, which is that we really do know a lot more about Zelda's upcoming content at an earlier stage than most people do when they go to buy a season pass.
Kind of barely, though. I mean, we know in extremely vague terms what it is. I don't know if that's much better than knowing nothing.
Well, and I do agree. This goes back into what I said about the timing. I think this creates all sorts of unnecessary problems by announcing this early that they could have avoided by just announcing it even a month or 2 weeks after launch. I think that bringing this stuff into the conversation before the game is even out kind of clouds the release and just kind of takes the focus off of what should be important, which is the release of the core game. I feel like they're just muddying the message too much by announcing DLC before the game's even out, whether I'm personally excited about the DLC or not.
It does feel like they are trading in a little bit of goodwill in order to capture those early bucks from people who are buying this game. It is... And some people are already spending. How much is it for the Master Edition of this game?
Well, that's one of the things I was going to bring up eventually. Is
Yeah.
I'm spending $130 for the Master Edition.
This should be part of that.
Exactly. I was actually going to when you were going to ask for final thoughts, I was going to use that to slot it in. But that you brought it up, we'll do it right now because I am spending $130 for the regular game for the Master Edition. And they do not include the DLC. That's a bit BS. I'm sorry.
I completely agree.
That should be included in the special edition and the Master Edition. It is a tad ridiculous that it's not, because now for people who bought the Master Edition, like myself, it is $150 for this single game, and it's crazy.
Now hold on, guys. Hold on. As consumers, you already valued what you're buying as being worthy of that price. So,
that is true.
That's true.
That is true.
Yeah, that's fair.
But also, I mean, when it's been announced, I could have looked at that and been like, the DLC's coming. Maybe I don't want to spend that extra. Like, I only had $30 extra, and I decided I wanted to get the Master Edition because I had, DLC will never come for the Zelda. I don't need to worry about it. Now that they've announced this, it's like, oh no, now I don't. That $30 I spent to get the Master Edition, now I can't afford the DLC.
That kind of is that is a good point, right? That perhaps buying the Master Edition does come at the expense of a budget for the DLC, which may be something someone will want more. Like having additional story, someone may value the physical goods. So yeah, that's actually an interesting point, and it's probably unlikely they can change their decision now. Good luck. Well, I don't know. Maybe you can still pre-order normal Zelda. I have no idea. So, but it would make it tricky.
Yeah. I mean, it would be nice for them to have included this stuff in either the special or the Master Edition. I mean, I think that's what, obviously I think we all think that's what should have happened, but, again, do we know how much that Master Edition costs to produce? What if they're already pricing it right at what they need to make a profit? We don't really know, right? If the $150 or $130 should include this DLC or not. It's really, I mean, I agree that it should, just on principle, but we don't really know the logistics of how this game was developed and how that all works out financially. I mean, they've got to fund this DLC. We assume.
I'll tell you how it works out financially. Nintendo's gonna make a tiny profit on both of these.
Well, yeah, but they should. I mean, but also shouldn't they be? Like, isn't that the?
I mean, of course,
that the function of a business?
Yeah, of course it is. But I mean, there comes a point where I feel like it can come across as money grabbing, right? You're just like you're exploiting your user base to get as much money from them as possible.
Well, and that's where the timing part of it comes in for me. It's not the fact that this DLC exists; it's just how they're presenting it and the timing at which they're announcing it. Like, I really think so much of this could have been dispelled if they just waited 2 weeks or a month after release to talk about all this.
It's true. I mean, we wouldn't have even had the argument about the carrot at all, because the carrot for a lot of people would be gone. They beaten the game or they played through it. So
yeah, or just make it something like you get. I guess like you
3 pieces
like
of special clothing. Like they have that one piece of in-game clothing. Have other special clothing to do, and that'd be nice and easy. Wouldn't really affect things, and you'd be done. So there you go.
And I do think Derek brought up a really good point earlier, which when he said, and this is of course. We can't give Nintendo credit for this, but the internet being what it is, on March 3rd at like 12:10 a.m., we're probably going to know exactly, we'll probably know like February 28th or something, exactly what those DLC items are, or that those early access items are. So, potential DLC buyers are probably going to know very quickly whether those items are worth buying the DLC early or not. Mm-hmm. Very quickly. Now, that's through no action of Nintendo's own, but at least there will be a way for people to know.
Those items aren't really my concern with this. So,
well, I thought you were concerned about that carrot in terms of people, wanting to buy that DLC early. But if people know the items are worthless, then there's no carrot, and they can buy the DLC or not whenever they choose.
I haven't really questioned their worthiness. I mean, I suppose it could be worthless. They call them. They say themselves they'll be useful. So
useful.
I'm taking them at their word that they'll be useful to some degree.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we don't know what they are, and we will find out soon. But it's more. I mean, my point is, regardless of what they are, they'll be useful to some degree, whether it's a lot or a little. The fact is, though, that if you wait to buy them until we know what the rest of the content is, those useful items are worthless if you're done with the game at that point.
Sure, that's also true. Yeah.
I don't think they lose their inherent value, especially if you just wait till.
Yes, they do.
They would. Well, here's the thing. They would lose their value to a major degree if you waited to get this expansion pass until DLC Pack 2 is fully revealed what they have. But if you wait until just before DLC Pack 1, you're still in pretty decent shape because, hey, you can start a new playthrough with hard mode at the very least.
I mean,
how many people, and still make use of it.
I don't think that many people do that, though.
Maybe not, but there are enough hardcore people out there, and you can make that decision if you want. Yeah.
I mean, well, yeah. I mean, yeah. People will be doing more for hard. Yeah, when the hard mode comes out for the pack. I mean, I'm actually so real quick. Let's go and wrap this up. If you could buy this piecemeal, what parts would you actually buy? For me, the only ones I would concretely buy right now, based on what little we do know, would be the hard mode. Potentially, who knows? The game may be hard enough that I don't care about that much. And then for sure, well, actually, not for sure, but based on what I hope of this DLC, I assume I would also buy for sure the new dungeon and original story.
I mean, I think we all probably agree with that. I would venture to say that I might even give them the benefit of the doubt on this map thing. And I only say that because we already know the game world is so huge. And I personally have a problem with open world games in terms of just staying focused and staying navigated and things like that. So I might actually say I'd go for the story, and the new dungeon, of course, and this map featured thing. I think I'd skip hard mode, skip the cave trials probably, and probably really everything in DLC Pack 1 except for that map thing. So I would say the story, the dungeon, and the map feature, whatever that is.
I think I agree with your decisions, Andre, where I'd go for the new hard mode, the new story, the new dungeon, definitely. The map feature, I'm sort of iffy on. That's one thing I would need to wait and see exactly what it is before I decide whether I would get it if I was buying piecemeal.
And I guess I was thinking about hard mode. I'm making that decision based on how hard I think the game is already, but of course, if the game came out and it ended up being really easy, like Wind Waker easy, then yes, I'd want to buy hard mode. But I have a feeling, based on what we played, that I'm not going to need hard mode, because this actually seems to be the first difficult Zelda game, or potentially difficult Zelda game, in years, and who knows how long.
So you just kind of touched on something there, and I don't want to get too deep into it, because we're already longer than I thought we would be. But if the game does end up being like Wind Waker easy, that's going to raise the question, did they make it easy to give hard mode more value? Right? Like, this introduces questions. I mean, again, I guess it does get back to the timing. This introduces questions that we wouldn't have had, necessarily, had we not known about this. I mean, again, based on what we've seen, that doesn't seem to be the case, so I don't think it's a real concern. But, it does make you think, like, it does do, it does raise questions of how DLC affects the current value of the game, or the current content of the game. I don't think it does, based on Nintendo's history, but it just raises the questions that you wouldn't necessarily have otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think we're done, right? No final thoughts or anything? Think we covered it?
Nope, I'm good.
All right.
Good.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for watching, guys. If you liked our discussion, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. You can find links to them in the description below. Also, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Just click that subscribe button. We post everything about Zelda, Switch, everything Switch, lots of stuff Switch. And, of course, just stay tuned for us in general about all of that and more. So, catch you later. Bye.